Okay, this is DorkDate podcast number 1. Now we do have another podcast type of thing. Elliot's banging around in the background. We do have another podcast type of thing called Fling, where we'll be talking about different movies and TV shows where one of us knows the book or other media behind it, source material behind it. But this one is more of just fun. We're going to talk about whatever we want, whenever we want, and you're going to deal with it. So for this one, we're going to talk about It, the movie that just came out. We just got back from seeing it.
Like less than a half hour.
And the reason we're not making it a fling is because neither of us have seen read the book. But
yeah, I've seen the original movie.
Yeah, so have I.
But it was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't want to officially call this a fling because I can't intelligently speak about the source material. And also, we both saw it, which kind of defeats the purpose of fling. So.
Yeah. If only one of us had seen the movie, we could have made it out into a fling. But
yeah. Either way. So, what did you think of it?
Do you want to just jump straight into the one that we just saw, or do you want me to go over like the original one?
No, let's talk about
let's first of all, spoiler warning.
Yeah,
we're not gonna hold back.
No, we're gonna discuss the movie we saw half an hour ago. So if you guys don't know, spoiler warning. But it's not like the movie had any crazy plot reveals that we didn't expect. You know?
No, but still, I mean, it's not like we're gonna be holding back and
just full disclosure.
Yeah, we're gonna give away some things that happen, probably.
So yeah, we should just talk about how we felt about this movie for the new one. Simply, I'd say that seems
okay. Yeah. I liked it a lot.
I did too. I thought it was awesome. Like 10 out of 10.
I mean, it got really good reviews, and all of the trailers looked really good for it. I never thought going into it that I wouldn't like it. I did think it was going to be a little bit scarier than it was.
Yeah, so that's the kind of impression I got too. I didn't think it was super frightening. Mm-hmm. You know, I've watched movies before where I've jumped more and I felt more anxious.
And a lot of the scenes that were pretty scary were like part of the trailers.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not trying to say the trailers, showed all the good stuff. There was terrifying shit in there.
Yeah.
Like, I remember in the trailers maybe like
it didn't show like a fraction of all of the creepy stuff.
Yeah, so speaking of the stuff they show, this is not one of those movies where you're going to see, it like 3 times. It being fun.
Speaking of which, exactly the original movie. You see it like 3 times.
Yeah. Whereas in this you
so this was something that I liked a lot better about it, was that you do see not only just the clown, but they make it out to be more of an entity, which is what it is in the original movie.
Yeah, and I think they display that really well, because...
Because in the original, it was very much just like, oh, this is a clown, and oh my god, halfway through we find out his name's Pennywise, whereas they reveal that right away in this
within
movie.
5 minutes.
And it's very clear this isn't just about the clown. He's not the only scary part, although they did do him a lot better, I mean, in my opinion, because they just have a lot more effects, I would say.
Sure, definitely. Yeah, and I think, going back to the fact that they actually show you the evil, I understand that in horror movies they say that, what's scarier is, what you don't see, because your mind fills in and stuff. And I think to a certain degree that's fine, but they gotta show you something. And that's why I hate movies like Paranormal Activity, okay?
Really?
I liked the first one. It was enjoyable, but everyone following that, it just felt like, okay, I don't want to see this invisible thing anymore. What is this, like...
I'm sorry, I'd like to interrupt now to talk about Mako Taco, ruler of bananas, our dog.
Yeah.
He's chewing a bone in the background. In our tests, you couldn't hear it, and he was doing it during that, but he's banging around a little bit more.
Hear a thump or a squeak. We're not getting clown killed. It's our dog. So anyway, what I was saying is, I don't know. I personally, someone who's into body horror and monsters,
like Saw?
No. Well, no.
Because that's what I picture exactly
that's more
when you say body
gore
horror.
And stuff like that. Body horror is more like the Thing. Like, seeing the human body in a form that is displeasing. Dead Space is body horror.
I would say that's Saw.
But Saw is just people getting torn up. But yes, that is to a degree body horror. But I guess in my mind, body horror is like Akira, the final scene, whatever, when he's getting all army and stuff like that. It's when the human body is still the human body, but it's also completely warped. Broken, but not just...
All right.
So anyway, my point is that I really like when a movie shows you enough. You know, it doesn't, for me personally, take away from the fear factor. And in fact, it scares me more sometimes.
So I have something opposing to say to
Sure.
that. I can get behind not seeing it because, you know, your mind's filling in the blanks. And I would say that, especially in this one, they kind of brought that up a little with the whole, like, oh, it's what you don't, like, it's what you're most afraid of or whatever. And it's projecting that. Whereas, like, in normal movies where I don't see it, I'm thinking of whatever I'm most afraid of, you know?
Yeah.
So it kind of fills it in, whatever. But in the original It, they do a lot of shady, oh, you don't see me, oh, there's a lot of freaky shit going on. And then they do reveal it, and it's just a fucking spider.
Well, okay. It's an alien, but sure. It's a spider. Yeah, so...
And so... I guess I'm kind of falling down on your side. I didn't mean to. Because I'm saying that in this movie, I really like that they showed us all of those things, because I do think that made it a lot scarier. Because in the original, they didn't show us it, and then when they tried to do what this movie did, they did it poorly. And I mean, that's from my opinion right now in this time and generation, having seen many movies before I saw the original It.
So, you may have picked this up from what we're saying, but they do not show a giant spider in the end. It never really takes a chance to explain what it is, and that's probably because it is a second movie.
Yes, that was what I was going to say. At the end, it's very implied that there's going to be a second movie, and then they say the very last thing on the screen is part 1.
And then a couple seconds later, part 1. Really, really great timing there. I think it was cool because they showed the final credit sequence again, because they showed one in the beginning too, or not the credit sequence, but the title card. The title It. And then just a moment later, they show chapter 1, and I don't know, I thought that was.
They said chapter 1.
It's a chapter 1.
In the very beginning?
No, in the end.
Oh. Okay.
No, yeah, sorry, in the end.
Okay. I was like, really? I missed that.
So they might go there, you know, but I think that to me,
they're definitely gonna go there.
Yeah. No, sure.
The whole thing was that they were saying at the very end that they kind of fight it, you know, and then they say
they beat the shit out of it.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
They kind of fight it.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. But it's definitely not dead. And the whole thing is they make this blood pact, and they're like...
Great scene, by the way. We'll get to blood pact later, but...
Really? Okay.
You didn't like that?
I liked it fine.
Right.
It wasn't on my list of things to note, but they make this blood pact, and they're like, you know, whatever, if it comes back, because it's supposed to come back every 27 years. I don't know I don't remember that being a specific thing.
Sounds familiar.
I remember it, like, having recurrence in the town, whatever, but I don't remember a specific year. And they're all like, yeah, sure, we'll all come back. And that's kind of, like, just mixed into the original It. Like, the whole original It is back and forth between adult versions of the kids and the kids.
It's not that back and forth. The first chunk, as far as I remember, the first chunk of the movie, first part of the original It is mostly kids.
It's mostly kids, but it's not all kids.
I don't think they show any adult stuff until either the very end of the first movie or the beginning of the second movie. Either way.
No, it's definitely in there. Like, it's pretty mixed. That, like, I'm pretty sure you might start with kind of the same scene as they did, where the Georgie's dying. But you definitely...
Was Georgie in the original movie? I'm not arguing with you. I just remember that.
Like, that whole boat scene, that all happened. They didn't go...
I remember the sewer. Yeah, okay. So
that whole thing. And, like, they all float, whatever. But they changed some of that, too. You don't go down and see all the kids like you do in this movie.
No, and I thought that was cool, too.
Yeah, I think it was cool. But I want to get back to that later.
Sorry.
Can you remind me where I was going with this? What we were talking about?
No, man.
The back and forth with the adults. So, I'm pretty sure it starts you out with the similar scene with Georgie, but then it goes to whatever the main kid's name is. Do you remember? Bill?
Yeah, Billy.
Him as an adult, like, getting this phone call, and then it kind of...
Douche, right? Aren't they all kind of douchey as adults?
They're all douchey. Yeah. They're all, like, all of a sudden very successful and very, like, oh, I can't be bothered to go back to my hometown. I'm just remembering it that way.
Yeah. Feel free to correct us in the comments.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna get a ton of shit wrong. So, yeah, it goes back and forth. And then the whole thing is that he gets this call and he's like, shit, I gotta go back. And then it kind of tells the kid's story.
Okay.
And then I think it jumps back and forth between where they're all at right now. And then most of the second half is just the adults. But they're definitely in the first part.
My gut says that didn't happen, but I haven't seen it in like 10 years. So I'm not even going to try to argue.
I'm gonna say that I'm right. Because Elliot's classically wrong.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah, so I personally, off the top of my head, can't think of any really low points in this movie. I thought... So it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, which...
I thought it was 2.5.
I think it was 2:15. Which is pretty long for a horror movie, you know, usually.
Yeah, I mean, pretty long for any movie, really.
I mean, sure. I think the average is like... Yeah.
I guess it wouldn't be a long movie for any movie,
long, yeah. But that jumps quickly. After like 2:20, it's like, okay, it's getting long.
Yeah.
After that, it's like, whatever. But yeah, no, it was long for a horror movie. I didn't feel that there was any downtime. Of course, I went to the bathroom once during it, so maybe that was the scene.
No, you were quick, though.
Yeah.
You only missed one thing, and it was still going on when you were
It was
coming
him
back.
in the library.
Yeah, it was the kid in the library.
Yeah, yeah, I thought, you know, I thought, because like, here's the thing. They had a tough job in that, you know, they, not only is that, what was the Stephen King, was it out as a book before, you know, there was a movie out too, and it was a very famous
2 movies even, or at least a 2-part movie.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so,
yeah,
going into this movie, that they really didn't have the element of, you know, who knows what's gonna happen. No one going into this movie thought, "What? There's a crazy clown. What? He's taking people." You know?
Yeah.
And
I mean, unless you got dragged there by someone.
Sure, which would be a great experience. I would love to go there blind. But yeah, so you know, knowing that and knowing as the audience the whole time, it's fucking coming. It's here, you know. And they put him there right in the beginning, like we said. You see him in all his glory in the first 5 minutes. He fucking bites a kid's arm off and drags him into the sewer.
That didn't happen. He didn't.
No,
bite his arm
I know.
off.
I think they upped the gore a lot in this.
They did. Yeah, they gave the actual clown like teeth. Like,
Well, he had fangs in a
like
couple scenes in the original movie. He had little like sharky teeth, but it was not like.
I mean, he kind of had normal fangs.
No. So he has the buck teeth in this movie, right?
Oh yeah. So I know what you're talking about. In the original, he did have a couple scenes where he had fangs, but most of it he had just big normal teeth.
Yeah. So in this movie, he has
like one center tooth.
Yeah, he's got like one gross
It's like
Timmy
a dog.
Turner style
It's like a
buck
dog tooth.
Dog tooth.
How it's like kind of split at the end, but then it's just like a normal tooth.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. Weird example. Yeah, it's like the classic cartoon buck tooth. You know what I mean? Like there's one giant tooth in the middle. But then
it bothered me a lot.
Basically a leech mouth full of like thousands of teeth.
Yeah, he can open the rest of his mouth, and he's got leech mouth, shark mouth, whatever you want to call it.
Which was terrifying. You know,
it was pretty bad. But I will say, because they do show that in the first scene with Georgie, I will say that kind of took me out of it a little bit.
Why? Because it seems so like.
Because I was like, whoa, that's different. And I was more thinking about how different it was than
how scary it was.
Yeah.
In that scene.
And that's probably just me, though.
In that scene, it scared me. Because, like, I think, okay, so, you know, they talk about the whole path of fear, right? You got, like, dread.
I was also expecting to be scared right then. I was like, it was my first, like, put my hand to my face, kind of like, ooh, it's coming. And I saw it, and I was like, oh. And maybe it was that anticipation that got me.
For me, worked so well because, like, yeah, the whole path of fear thing is where you start out with dread, and I don't remember all the steps, but basically, there's all this build up, and then there's finally the horror, right? And so seeing it at first, you know, it's this creepy rainstorm, the kids running around, and you know something's wrong, right? You have that slow build up, and then you see him look down in the sewer, and you see these eyes. Whoa, that's uncomfortable. And then you see this clown, and you know something's off about him, right? Obviously doesn't look a human. Why the fuck is he in a sewer and stuff like that? And so this whole time I'm thinking, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Holy shit! Like I know the kid's dying. I know he's going in the sewer, but I didn't know how. And so when he finally opened his mouth and took a fucking bite out of that kid's arm.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, so for me that was.
I almost thought he was gonna get away too.
Like run away with that one.
I
arm?
was like, well, they changed one thing.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where they're going. If they were gonna like time skip after that significantly or what the deal was, but yeah. So when he finally took that bite out, when he finally saw his teeth, all that for me was a really nice, like, curve. a really nice build up. It was good for me. And then, besides that, this wasn't like okay, I'm thinking of movies like The Conjuring, right, where it's kind of maybe even funny, happy for the first 5 minutes as the family's moving to a new house, and then everything after that just fucking blows. And then there's kind of like that bittersweet 5 minutes at the end where it's like, whoever survived, This wasn't like that, and I really appreciated that. It had that classic 80s summer movie feel.
Yeah, it did a very good job of being funny the entire time and still taking itself seriously.
Yeah, absolutely, because, these kids were... Yeah, first of all, everybody in the movie was likable in their own way, I don't think they gave Mike, the kid working at the slaughterhouse, the black kid, I don't think they gave him near enough.
Homeschool kid.
Sorry, I appreciate they didn't call him Black Kid too, because I think that was an easy way for them to identify him, as I just chose. But they didn't give him enough character development.
No, they didn't, and that was something that I wanted to talk about too, because
Black and Jewish. What am I doing? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, they not so much with the racial elements, but they did really talk about how he was Jewish, a lot. I mean, that's
part of their identity too.
It's an identifying marker.
Mike was the outsider, and that was.
Sorry to anyone we've offended. But yeah, so those two, I will say that they didn't get enough character development. I thought more of that about the homeschool kid was Mike. But I thought that they would incorporate him a lot earlier, because they did show him right away. Like they showed all of the kids right away doing their own thing.
I would like to see a director's cut of this to see if there was more time. Sorry, I didn't cut you off, but if they had, because that big intro with him talking to his adoptive father and stuff like that was it his grandfather? Yeah, and talking to his grandfather and talking about how there's two types of people in the world, blah blah blah. That was a big build up for his character, and it seemed like he was sort of tacked onto their group.
Kind of came full circle in the end, ish. Like when he, because the end of that speech was either you're going to be a sheep or you're going to be a farmer, and if you don't decide, they're going to make you a sheep, and they're going to be the ones putting the bullet through your head. And at the end, someone was holding a gun to his head.
I also like that they didn't make him pull the trigger on the gun ever. The only person who did that out of the kids group was Mike. Never shot the gun. He killed sheep on screen. Mike?
Yes.
No, his dad took the gun out of his hand and did it.
The first time.
Oh, they made him do it later. Was that after the final?
That was after he had become part of the group, and after they had gone to the house the first time.
Oh, okay. I think
and then they all came back kind of changed, they had all seen some shit, because they had.
Yeah. So
and he was killing sheep. And that's why he brought the gun. He was like, okay, I'm comfortable with this.
Yeah, that makes sense. I appreciate that. I'm glad they didn't make him kill anybody.
Before we get too far in, I want to go back a minute.
Okay.
I really liked how they treated the main boy in this. Billy. Okay. Billy, I liked a lot more how they treated him in this movie than they did in the first one, because...
You remember a lot more of this than I do.
I do. I think... I don't remember as much of the second part, though. I'll tell you that. In the original movie, his family was pretty shitty to him about Georgie dying.
In what way?
I mean, I could be a little bit wrong about this, but the mom, who we never see in this movie, she's mentioned, but we never see her.
Piano in the beginning.
Oh, that's true, but never again. The mom is very kind of blaming almost. She sees him in Georgie's room, and she's like, why are you doing this? Get out of here. It's our fault, whatever. And it seems whoa, I grieve too, But in that, it's it flips to Georgie's picture or something, blood's coming out, and she's like, what the fuck? I don't know. And so I immediately, seeing his interactions with his family, I was like, okay, I like this a lot better.
It seemed way more realistic, you know what I mean? When his dad scolds him for taking his stuff out, it's not like his dad was saying, fuck you, Billy, you're trash. He was saying, listen, I've moved on. This is how I'm trying to cope with it. I'm trying to forget. You should too. Yeah. And I didn't villainize his dad in my mind. No. He wasn't bad.
Even that's when I really started thinking about it, because I thought he was going to be a lot shittier to him, and he wasn't. And I was happy for that until it got to the end, because then I was seeing, oh my god, all of these kids have shitty parents in their own way. We don't really see that from some of them, but
Well,
I kind of wished that.
I don't think they all have shitty parents. I think that...
Well, the girl has a really shitty dad.
Yeah,
The bully has a really shitty dad. The homeschool kid has a bad situation. Like his situation with his grandpa is not ideal.
I mean,
he's still pretty rude to him.
He wasn't rude to him. Listen, his grandfather, who's got to be, very old at this point, is still working at slaughtering sheep. He's the kind of guy who, like he said, he saw it black and white. You're either a sheep or you're either a killer.
I
know. So I just don't see it like a abusive style thing, like you're comparing to the girl.
No, I'm not saying that they're exactly the same because the other ones were being abused.
Yeah.
Not at all the same.
I get what you're saying.
But they're all bad in their own way.
No.
And like the one kid who had all the medication, he had a really bad setup.
What's that called when people like fake diseases in people?
Hypochondria?
No, not when you think you have. Like, it's when like mothers classically.
Oh yeah, I don't remember what that's called.
Oh, shoot.
I think it's like a name or something.
Yeah.
Like a name of someone.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to explain that anymore?
Yeah. So I mean, it's this phenomenon. Maybe that's not the right word for it. Where specifically caretakers, usually caretakers, I'm sure there's other iterations of it, mothers generally too, will either fake illnesses or injuries or actually cause illnesses. Yeah, either. I think it's either in their children or someone who's, they're caring for whatever reason. It might be attention. In this movie, I think it was, a sense of overprotectiveness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To give context, one of the kids in the movie breaks his arm, and they have like a little bit of time skip from I think it's June to August in this, where the kids are hanging out to each other, and the mom says you can't hang out with your friends anymore. And during this process, he is sick. I just did air quotes in case you're wondering. He's not really sick. I mean, he's got a broken arm, but he's not really sick. His mom's got this medication for him, which I think is just sugar pills, and basically.
But that had been happening the whole time. It wasn't just because he broke his arm.
Sure.
He was taking these pills the entire time, and he was
all of his pills were like that?
I think so, yeah.
Oh,
and he was having asthma, and I know that was the same point that they made in the movie too.
The original.
Yeah. in the original movie was that he was getting just a refill for his inhaler only. I think I'm not actually sure. And they told him the same thing. This is placebo.
Oh, interesting. But yeah. So going back to, I know we're jumping all over the place, to the fact that I didn't feel like Stanley, the Jewish kid, and homeschool Mike or whatever were that developed. Mm-hmm. I understand why. They had a huge ensemble to deal with, a huge cast.
They did, yeah.
And they had a 2 hour and 15-minute movie, but that's still a lot. Not a lot of time to develop characters, make you care about them, and each have their own personal little arc. And I think that they, did a pretty good job. And when you think about it too, I think the actor's name is Finn Wolfhard. It was the kid with the glasses who was always making dick jokes.
Is he also in
Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's in Stranger Things. I don't remember his role exactly.
I remember thinking he's one of the main kids.
Yeah. But there's the one kid who gets, upside down in the beginning of the show, and
Is he not the brother?
I don't know if it's... Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure.
I actually haven't seen the show, so I have no idea.
I've only seen everything but the last 2 episodes because I'm awful and I haven't finished it. But anyway.
Yeah, I recognized him, though, and I thought that he was from that, and maybe because of that, it kind of gave me a Stranger Things vibe, but also it was a very, 80s horror
80s kids making a monster hunt situation, it's exactly Stranger Things.
But still having fun.
It totally reminded me of Stranger Things. What I was saying about him is his character didn't have a lot of development either, he was scared of clowns, which out of him, he had probably the least valid fear of everybody, or maybe, Ben, the bigger kid.
Ben, because he didn't have a fear, right?
I think he was afraid of dead people mostly, because his thing was the headless person who died in the explosion, and then there was a mummy later on.
Oh, okay. So I forgot about that headless person. I was thinking he didn't even see anyone, and at the very end they show some dude having tape hair or something trying to suck him in.
It was like a mummy or something like that.
Okay. And I was like, why are they just throwing this in for no reason,
Yeah.
But that makes more sense.
Yeah, so I didn't think that Finn, personally was super developed either. And I think that he more played definitely not more. I think he definitely played more of a comedic relief role.
Yeah, for sure.
Which was fine. It was super needed in this, you know. And then
it's natural. Like people do deal with fear that way.
Absolutely.
You know?
And I think that
anything that way. They were from the beginning. He was like that, and they were all bullied. You know, that's just. It makes sense as a character.
Yeah, definitely. And I love... So the first time they go in the house, right? His name isn't Finn. I don't remember his name right now. But... comedic relief kid glasses. First time they go in the house, he finds the missing poster. Missing kid poster of himself. And he's like, holy fuck, freaking out. He's like, freaking out. When they go in the second time, he's like, oh man, I wouldn't want to wish on that well, basically. And I think that whole different reaction for them shows that they... were really mentally ready to like face their fears in this regard, you know. And
they foreshadowed that, you know.
Now here's what I don't really get, right? So
it's a couple things I don't get.
Yeah, I got a lot of questions, but Stanley, the Jewish kid, right? He was afraid of the painting.
Yeah.
There's a scene where the painting lady, whatever creature, bites his face, and he's actually got wounds and bandages for it, stuff like that. I guess I don't understand where
so at the end he does have.
Yeah.
His face is wrapped. I didn't get that that's what that was from. Okay. I thought he hit his head because he has like a lot more wrapping like above near his forehead.
Yeah. And so he has he's like little teeth marks.
I kind of forgot about it.
So my thing is this, right? Where is the distinction between what it can do and can't do? Because
I was gonna bring this up too. Because a lot of the time, especially when they first go into the house. Billy is always saying it's not real, it's not real, it's not real, and eventually they come into contact with Pennywise, as Pennywise,
and he slashes the kid's stomach open.
Yeah, and he's saying, "Oh, this isn't real enough for you."
Yeah, but he doesn't personally slash the kid's stomach open. It's the bar.
It's the bar that someone puts in his face.
And the broken arm that
one kid gets a broken arm, but he falls and breaks his
dilapidated house. Yeah, and so
it's almost never hurting them. And it was very jarring that this thing was sucking on this kid's face, and he comes off basically scratch free.
Yeah, so I'm wondering. I guess my question is, you know, could it have just killed them? Like maybe that wasn't his motivation. He clearly wanted to keep them up there and suck their fear and whatever, all this crazy, you know, evil entity shit. But like, I guess. You know, why didn't he... Like, if he can bite this kid's arm off, which I'm assuming actually happened, unless that was just the kid's mental fear and he'd already... Whatever, I'm not sure, you know, where the I'm hallucinating this or is it real line is crossed. You know, could he have killed them? You know, when they were alone? I just feel like there was... I feel like there were scenes where he could have managed to kill these kids, right? But I also think that his main motivation was to increase their fear. You know what I mean? Make them max fear.
So... One of my questions is, does he actually eat the children, or is he just feeding on their fear?
He might eat them just to freak them out more. But I think mostly it's the fact that he you know, it almost seems like
is it like a Monsters Inc. situation?
I think it is like a Monsters Inc. situation, but yeah, no, basically. and I think that, you know, maybe he tries to keep he like catches them in what he would consider, or what, you know, what's possible, their maximum fear. Because there's a scene when what's her name, Beverly. Beverly's when he finally steals Beverly, which again, crazy that he can do that. By the way, love the scene where she finally fucking beats the shit out of her father.
Okay, question about this. Okay. Is it implied that he's molesting her?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
I wasn't 100% sure.
So wait, I'm not sure either, because like it's implied that he's going to, at least, right? He's basically trying to rape her in the end. He's like holding her down and like grabbing her legs and shit like that.
Or at least he's gonna just beat the shit out of her.
No, because he would have beat the shit out of her. That was happening.
Yeah.
That was not how you beat the shit out of somebody.
The last scene with them was very uncomfortable.
But great, I thought. In that,
it was really.
There was such like, fuck yeah, go Beverly validation.
From the very beginning, I was like, is he doing this? And it's just like,
yeah, I don't know.
Something that is very uncomfortable and heartbreaking, you know.
Yeah,
and then it just kept being like, is he? Like, please give me a sign one way or the other.
For me, the question was
definitively.
not like, is he going to? It was, has he done it before?
Oh, I'm sure.
And my gut, see, I just don't 100% know about that. I don't know. I don't get too much into the details of why he wouldn't. That makes me comfortable, but
the thing that makes me think it is the whole "Are you still my girl?" that he kept saying to her. Yeah. Are you still my girl?
But he kept saying, "Are you still my little girl?" And so maybe there's this idea where he's like watching her grow up, and he's waiting until she's like a woman, because he seemed very fascinated with that. There was lots of that imagery. Her fear is blood. She's one of the main scenes when she's getting tampons and stuff like that. You know, I mean, her whole thing, the whole thing in the movie was everybody's growing up. You know what I mean? But her fear was maybe growing up because she would have to deal with this overt, implied event with her dad or something like that, or maybe it already happened. I don't know. That was more the vibe I got though. You know, that it wasn't that it had happened, but it was going to happen.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's mostly just very sad.
It was very sad. So I love the scene when she finally fucking hits him in the face with the back of a toilet seat, or the top of the toilet. That was amazing. You know
At first, I thought that she had climbed out of her window, because she eventually kicks him and gets him off of her, and then she goes to hide in the bathroom, which has so one lock on it. Yeah. I know, yeah. The dad padlocked the front door.
You see the padlock, and it's like, oh god,
no escape.
Yeah.
And we know from her climbing down her fire escape that she lives several floors up. And I thought she was going to climb out this bathroom window, but she's just hiding in the shower. And you see it with the curtain. You can kind of see silhouette there, yeah. But it's not super clear. No, but you know that she's either behind there or she's out the window. And the whole time I was like, Beverly, no, I don't want to see this, because it was already so uncomfortable for me. And for everyone after that scene was over, gave a collective sigh of relief.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think, they didn't take it too far. It wasn't like a weird...
Not for the general audience.
Yeah, but not for what they were trying to say, too. I don't need to see this dad actually get hands on this daughter. I know what he's trying to do. What I need to see is her fucking shit out of him, which she did. She kicks him in the nuts, she kicks him in the face, and then she fucking... Did she kill him?
I don't think so.
He came a while later. Saw him.
I don't think so, because in the end she said, my aunt says I can stay here as long as I want. Yeah, so... But I think that's just like a...
We understand that he's actually an issue, like you can't stay with him anymore, and so you can come stay with us if you want.
Yeah, he's not dead. Because I think she'd be getting in trouble if he was dead.
Hopefully he'd be in jail. I don't know. But
I just think, like, in this time, the way that all the adults were acting, I would think that they would say, like, no, you need to listen to your father. I don't know. Another thing, similar thing that I didn't really love was the bully killing his dad. Because I felt like they gave him more character development than the other kid. Several of the other kids.
Sure.
And
he was like a minor antagonist most of the time. I mean, almost major.
Yeah. He was fucked up.
Yeah.
And I felt, probably intendedly so, I felt so torn between your dad's a piece of shit, like he just shot at you, like I know the fear you're living every day now because of this scene.
And I know why you take out your feelings
well,
on his kids.
That was already assumed.
But seeing it so right there, you know what I mean? It's not that his dad's like mean and scary. It's like his dad shot a gun inches away from your feet. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, holy shit.
And then told all your friends what a coward you were.
Yeah.
I was very torn between, kill him, this guy's fucked up, and I don't really like you, so I hope you die, or something happens to you, or it gets you, or whatever.
I think the whole scene with the kid, with the dad shooting the gun, I think that, and there was an earlier scene too where he loses his knife, and his dad says, or he says, my dad's gonna kill me. You know what I mean? I think that was enough to make him sympathetic for me. You know what I mean?
But the whole my dad's gonna kill me thing, at first I was like, oh wow, yeah, I bet your dad like abuses you or something, right? Because we don't know anything at this point. We just know he's a bully. We know something's probably going on, and then it's kind of confirmed by that. But then later on, when the one kid drops all of his pills, he says the same thing. Oh, my mom's going to kill me. Yeah, and Georgie says,
oh, he's going to kill me.
Bill's going to kill me for losing the boat.
I noticed that too.
And I kind of wish that they didn't do that, because looking back on it now, it does diminish the original, I guess not original, but the bully saying that.
Well, I don't know if it diminishes it for me, but I think that in that scene, my assumption was the kid seemed scared, right? He seemed really freaked out about his knife. And but that was also a very action-packed scene. You know, the kids rolling down the hill, they're chasing. And so
he just gutted that kid. Yeah. I mean, he didn't actually.
Carved his fucking name into his stomach, yeah. So, or his first letter or whatever. But yeah, so I thought about it in that scene for a moment, like, I wonder how intensely he's actually afraid of his dad right now. And then, they don't really let you dwell on it. And I noticed, too, like you said, that a lot of people said, oh, they're going to kill me, too. And so I think...
I mean, it's a common phrase.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is I think that the fact that so many people mentioned it in so many different contexts, because obviously Billy's not going to kill fucking Georgie, and obviously this kid's mom's not going to kill him, you know what I mean? Whereas when you finally see it with his dad, you think, holy shit, he might actually kill this kid, you know? And so I think that was cool, too, because I think that scene early on made you think that, okay, this guy is just like everybody else, and then seeing it, it's like, okay, this kid actually has a validation for his horrible fucking behavior, you know? Killing his dad seems almost like a pointless scene, but I think it was enough to show that he had fully cracked.
Yeah, and I do think that will probably come into play in the second movie, because in the very end of this movie...
died, right?
That's what I'm about to talk about. In the end of this movie, so let's back up a minute. Throughout, at Beverly's house and at this guy's house, you hear on the TV this mock children's show, telling you go play in the sewers, which is where they know it is living or dealing, whatever he's doing. They tell you go play in the sewers, go float or whatever. They're dropping all these lines of clearly, hey, go down here and die. And then when he kills his dad, the same thing happens, and she then turns to him and says, go kill them all, and then Pennywise is there, and whatever. And he finally goes, and he tracks them down in the well, in the end-ish scenes of the movie. And he almost foils them, but then he gets pushed down the well past where they went. And he doesn't show back up, so you assume probably he's dead.
Well,
but
I kind of think that well just goes down to hell. I think it was kind of the implication. Like, it just goes on and on.
Was that the implication?
Well, okay, so look at it, right? In
just straight to hell?
Maybe
just a one-way ticket?
Maybe not literal hell, but, like, Pennywise, right? I don't... In the original movie, to me, it was implied that he was an alien. Or maybe I read that in a forum somewhere. But clearly, he's an entity, a supernatural entity from somewhere else, right? In the end scene, Pennywise is sitting here, and he's, gets knocked down this deeper hole, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't get knocked down. He chooses that.
Sure. Yeah. But the depth, wells, natural occurring wells, are not that fucking deep. Nobody, so
yeah,
seeing it
I
fall
thought
that far,
it was definitely supernatural. I don't know if I ever would have thought hell.
Well, I kind of got, I don't know, Pennywise, at least in this movie, comes off as much more of a demon to me. It felt like people were getting haunted. You know what I mean? And so I guess thinking...
But I liked that, because I know in the end of the first one they talk about, Pennywise is just a projection from this alien like trying to fuck with us.
Which kind of diminishes the fear in that.
It does. That's the whole thing I was trying to talk about earlier. It definitely 100% diminishes
I see
the
what you're saying. Where's that final reveal? Okay, I gotcha.
But I don't remember where we were going with this. What were you just saying?
Well, you were talking about how this kid's going to come up in a later movie, and I said, didn't he die? Didn't he fall down a well?
Yeah, I meant after that. I don't know. Maybe I'll think of it again later. But I think that eventually he could be down there or something still. He could come back. Because I know in the original, the bully was supposed to help them defeat Pennywise and defeat it. And I don't remember if he comes back as an adult or not. I think he does. And I'm pretty sure he makes the blood pact with them still. Like, as a kid.
Yeah?
I'm pretty sure. Because I think the whole thing is that he's still fucked up. He still has a fucked up life. He still bullies them. And then he starts getting haunted, or whatever you want to call it, as well. And he says, oh, shit, okay, fine. Let's all fight the real evil for now, and then we'll get back to fighting you guys.
Weird. So, two things.
Mm-hmm.
One, did you notice the Easter egg of the original It in the movie?
In the clown room?
Yeah.
I didn't, but that's where I assumed he would have been.
There was one actual Pennywise face in there. I'm like 90% sure. Well, no, I mean, I again, it was very dark in there, but it looked very much. It even had the same, like, it was basically the same thing. I guess three things, but two, I love the design of Pennywise in this movie, right? Because it looks unnatural.
Yeah.
I think the most unnatural thing in the original movie was the eyes, the
Were the eyes weird?
They were like, I think,
don't remember.
a little intense. He might have had contacts, but yeah, not even that weird, right?
Can we talk about his eyes in this one for a second? Did they get more wonky?
I think so.
Because there was always one that was like a little off to the side. And the stripes on his face kind of go directly up to his pupil area.
I want to talk about the stripes, yeah. But so I think yeah, like.
I thought like halfway through that. Like I noticed his one eye was kind of wonky, and then I thought halfway through it was like way more wonky, and they do weird stuff with it later on.
Yeah.
But
in the first scene, in the sewer, his eyes look really off. Like they look not just like off in color or whatever, but they look off in like direction, and I think that's
what I meant by wonky.
Yeah, and there's also a scene in the beginning too where he says like, yeah, Pennywise, like he's almost like remembering that, or like, oh yeah, okay, this is what I'm claiming to be or whatever. And so I like that those little tells make it seem like this is just a front of something. This is just like, because it's obviously
it's much more clear in this movie.
Well, sure, but I like never once would I don't think anybody who's closely watched the movie would think this is a clown spirit or this is an actual clown at one point in their life. You know what I mean?
Not if you didn't know it. Yeah.
So you know, and I think seeing all the Pennywise crap down in the like the final sewer scene, or whatever, I think that's very clear that like something here saw this and chose to have this be its vessel to interact. Yeah. So back to its design. In the original, you know, the fact that his head was big. He's a fucking clown, first of all, and he's got like fangs once in a while. But beside that, I don't remember there being a whole bunch of, you know, really creepy scenes, but unnatural scenes. But in this,
in the original, you mean?
In the original, and in this one, there's just a lot. First of all, the fangs.
They play with it a lot.
The fangs, or not even fangs, the fucking mouthful of teeth, terrifying when they show that. Even the not mouthful of teeth, the crazy buck tooth. It was like such a cartoon, crazy commercial mentality, or not commercial. Oh yeah, that's what I commercialized. You know, it's like how they would caricature a clown on the side of like, you know, Pennywise's wagon thing. That's how they draw him with the crazy goofy buck teeth and stuff like that. And so I thought that was cool that they actually showed that. You know, it looked like some non-human thing saw a photograph of a clown and tried to like make a real 3D thing out of it, and it looked wrong. The face paint from his, I think it was from his mouth, went all the way up. When he would really smile, it would almost like curve a little bit and look just like devil horns.
Oh,
I don't know if that was intentional.
You're really getting a lot of hell out of this.
Well, yeah, I think that's... Well, there's the scene where he's sitting there and he's... My third thing was that there's a scene where he's Pennywise the Dancing Clown and he's sitting there and doing his crazy, creepy fucking dance behind flames.
Yeah, okay. That one's more hell.
I don't, you know...
But it kind of just mostly seemed like circusy to me. Like a daring circus act. Because they weren't real flames.
No.
It was like a set. So it seemed like...
The first explosive ones, but the fact where he's sitting there doing that wasn't a set. That was like hallucination stuff. Like, it was on a set, but...
It wasn't real flames, though. They were, like, dancing cardboard things behind him. It wasn't... I mean, I really don't think I'm remembering it wrong. It was all lighting and movement.
All I'm saying, the imagery was there, right?
Yeah.
And even when there's a scene when they're in the house the first time, when it's just Billy and... What is that kid's name? Glasses kid, whatever. They're in that room by themselves after he gets out of the clown room, and Georgie's coming out. Or was Georgie or was the other kid downstairs?
It was the other kid.
Okay, when his head pops out of the mattress, yeah, and he's got that gross black goo coming out of his mouth. It's on fire, right? And
it was steaming.
No, it was actually burning. Like it was.
Yeah, it's like acid, but it wasn't. There were no flames.
No, there was flames. I'm almost positive on the edge where it was touching the floor. It looked like it was flame. I'm pretty sure we can look that up. Either way, that might have just been a design choice. The flames that I'm pretty sure I saw, but
I feel like you're just putting a lot together.
I don't think so. I mean, maybe it was, but my point is that the hellish imagery in my mind was there.
Okay.
You know, I'm not saying this is Satan or anything like that. I'm not even saying that the pantheon that Pennywise is part of, if he is part of pantheon, has to do with any sort of Christian imagery or whatever. But I think he's mostly just evil, right? Or fear embodiment or something like that.
I don't really remember, and I did see the movies when I was pretty young, so I don't remember any specific themes that I would have gotten from it, you know, but...
In this one, I got
it. And I didn't necessarily pick up on those, but I'm not the most observant person, so...
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but which of the boys does Bev end up with in the old movie? Doesn't she end up with one of them?
So, as adults, originally, they're not together, I don't think. And then I think it after you learn that they had something going on as kids, I think that she ends up getting with the main one. But that's something I'm really not sure about.
Well, I thought I remember some resentment from one of the kids. Like there was two of the boys at least vying for affection in the original movie, and I remember that after the fact. I feel like maybe it was an upset in like who you were led to want it to be or who you expected it to be. But either way, I remember that one of the two boys who wasn't with her had some resentment towards her, as far as I recall.
I was very sad that Ben, what's his name? Ben didn't end up with her. He wrote her that poem, and this is something that I wanted to get in some tropes of the movie. They are all about the power of friendship. That's how they are choosing to defeat Pennywise / it. And I remember hating that about the original movie. Because it was like, oh, we need all of us, you know, and that our magical friendship will cure everything. I've never liked that in anything that I've ever seen. Any type of media. Kind of stuff. Yeah, I know you are. Another trope that leads into this Ben Bev thing. True love's kiss.
I love that.
To get her out of this floating stupor that it puts her in. He has to, or chooses to, kiss her while she's out of it, and it brings her out.
Sure.
Brings her out of the chance.
Now, I like that scene, because in my mind, Ben and her, their chances aren't done yet, right? She kisses Bill at the end. But
Bill kisses her, and then she goes back in for it.
Whatever.
But that was really sad for me, too. Like, she clearly the entire time wanted Bill to be the one.
But that's not true. Think about the scene where they're in the bathroom, and she says the poetry thing, and he's like, I don't know very much poetry. The look on her face.
That's what I'm saying, is she wanted him to be the one.
Because at that age, he was classically, you know, the kid with the dark past, the kid who's, you know, brave and stuff like that, who's driven and stuff like that. And there's many times in here where Ben was very brave. He was, you know, he was not one of the kids who was always sprinting away and stuff like that. You know, I would say that he is at least on the same level of Billy, because he's the one doing. Yeah, Billy is a little bit. He was reckless.
Yes, reckless. And Ben was doing all of this research before any of them even got together. He was doing all of this research, trying to figure all of this stuff out. He likely would have gone on this quest anyway.
In some form, yeah. Yeah. And I think the fact that Bill had the connection for this catalyst was like, you know, with Georgie, was the reason he would have actually probably fallen through with it. And everybody else had some sort of connection too. But, yeah. So my thing is that I think Ben eventually is going to, you know, come into his own, you know. Like, there were so many scenes where, like, in the first scene, when he meets Bev, and she's like, oh, you like, what was New Kids on the Block, right? And they're joking about that. And then, you know, she makes the New Kids on the Block joke, and then he walks away, and he's like, please don't leave, or whatever the name of that song is, whatever. And he says it a couple seconds too late. It's like he's almost there, hitting these beats with her. That's going to be, like, so great, and they're going to get along so together, because it's all heavily foreshadowed, in my opinion. And I think that, you know, at this point, she sees, you know, Bill's the ideal one in the group, but I think that eventually she's probably gonna fall for Ben. You know
I really hope so, because I was hoping that they would go that way, and they didn't. And I get it, like, most movies wouldn't go that way, you know. There's always going to be an upset. Well, and they're both very deserving. It's not like Billy is like this douchebag or anything like that, but
well, deserving sounds kind of like she's a prize, but I mean, like, I get what you're saying.
No, but neither of them are. It's not like she's going for the jerk instead. It's not like the nice guy's losing out. They're both nice. They would both be losing out if she chose one or the other.
Definitely, I get that.
And I don't remember how it ends up in the original movie, but I'm hoping that in part 2 they kind of turn it around, or at least address it, you know.
Or go somewhere completely different. That'd be kind of cool too. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, they don't have to follow the movie exactly.
A thing that I liked about this that I don't really remember if it was part of the original, that the parents and adults couldn't see the horrors that the kids were seeing.
That scene where her dad comes in the bathroom and it's all covered in blood. That was like such a wonderful. At first, I thought he like. I
felt like I remembered that from the original.
I remember the whole blood sink her.
But I thought I remembered adults remembering or seeing other things in the original too. Not like themselves seeing it, but witnessing it with the children. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like
you're right. I think there's a scene early on where one of the moms sees Pennywise behind a bunch of sheets. Like, there's laundry, like, all hung up outside in the yard, and they're, like, blown by, and I think she sees, like, a flash of him behind. And so, can we talk about the adults for a second? Because in some of the old accidents that had happened 27 years before or whatever, they talk about adults dying and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So can Pennywise prey on adults, and is he just not choosing to in this at this time? Or
I would assume so. I would also assume that kids are just an easier target. Because they do talk about a lot of, like, the original settlers, you know.
Yeah, they all died.
Disappearing. No one knows anything that happened to them. And several other things. They talk about, like, there being 6 times the normal disappearing and murder rate of adults.
Not even the kids.
Yeah, and it's way worse for kids.
Uh-huh.
And I really think that, like, if an adult were there and he was like, okay, well, I'm running out of options, or you seem easy, then he would go for an adult. But it is mostly about the kids, I think.
Well, that makes sense too. For him, it definitely seems like risk reward, right? And trying to max fear, and I bet it's probably a lot harder to get adults terrified too. You know what I mean? Because I think as an adult, you're confident in your ability to fight back a lot more.
Yeah.
Whereas kids, you know, you're faced with, and as a kid, I love that scene in the beginning where Georgia goes in the basement, and I don't remember if there was anything that was actually scary in the basement at first, but he's just terrified of the basement with thunder and stuff like that. And I remember that so much as a kid, you know what I mean?
I remember that now.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Well, sure, but like as a kid, I remember I mean, like, you know, there'd be a dark corner in my room, and the insane, you know, fear I felt from that, you know. So yeah, I thought that makes sense that he'd go for kids.
So what I was saying earlier was that I like that the adults can't see what the kids see, because this is why one of my notes is Santa about the movie, because it is very much like a twist on the classic, like, Christmas story. Like, oh, you have to believe it. Like, any magical story about kids, my original thing, the thing that comes to mind is Christmas. Is, oh, you have to believe it, and only a child can see it because they're the only ones that still believe it. And, you know, the only reason people think Santa doesn't exist is because they're too old to believe that, and whatever. Yeah. So it kind of reminded me of that, but in, like, a fun, twisted way.
It's like a deconstruction of that trope, you know. Like, I do believe in fairies or whatever, but, like, I do believe in it. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything about the movie I really didn't enjoy. Again, I think that it wasn't as scary as I thought, but I'm not really saying that as a knock against the movie, right? Like, I've been looking for a really terrifying horror movie for a while, but I might just be at that age or that part of my life where I'm never going to see something that's truly scary again. This movie was scary. Again, I'm not saying it wasn't scary. I'm not saying that there weren't scenes where I was, like, freaked out, you know what I mean? But I didn't ever feel the need to gasp or anything like that. I was tense. I was, you know, clenching my white knuckling, I guess. But nothing really like that. Because, you know, this movie honestly doesn't really do jump scares in that
Yes, it does.
Well, no, wait. There were very few, if any, scenes that I can remember where there is a scare when you're not expecting it. If you're going to see someone's face, you're staring at a black, you know, like a shadow for a while, and then he comes out. Yeah. You know, you knew something was coming always. Whereas jump scares, you know, can you think of a scene where, you know, someone just, like, opens a dresser and, like, there's a hand in there? But I think
a lot of jump scares are what we were shown in this movie.
I don't think so. I think that the whole distinction of jump scares is that it's completely out of nowhere. It's more taking shock as opposed to fear. There's a YouTube video somewhere where somebody analyzes jump scares and why they suck. And like
I still would say that these are jump scares because they are shocking you. And they were like, there was one scene where they were looking at maps on a projector, and eventually it malfunctions and you see it, and then all of a sudden he's actually there and he's a giant.
That was definitely a jump scare.
That was a jump scare.
Because you know it
but he was still there. I knew something was going to happen. It wasn't just going to end with him on that slide, you know.
Yeah, but you know those YouTube videos they used to have, I mean, for this lab, where, you know, you start watching something and then, like, half of the video it screams at you.
Like the maze thing. There's this game where you go through a maze, and if you, like, hit the goal was to get through it without hitting any edges. And if you did hit an edge, then, like, the face from the Exorcist would come out and it would scream at you. Or I think also if you got to the end, it would happen. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, well, no, exactly.
There's a million different iterations of it, but. Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I agree. But I also think that
like, it's presented in such a different way where I don't feel cheapened by it, I guess.
Yeah. So I also think that maybe just because of how many movies we've seen, maybe because of the mindset we're in, whatever, it wasn't as scary for those reasons. It was still very interesting, still very creepy in those parts. But I think that this movie did a really good job of combining the jump scares and the classic horror movie scares with like social horror.
Yeah, and I think that in a lot of ways some of those scares were equal. You know what I mean? Like it was just as scary to see
Bev and her dad.
The padlock on the door. Even that scene right there. The padlock on the door was just as filled me with such a feeling of dread as, you know,
him jumping out of that wall.
Well, yeah, or like seeing not only that, because that's a different style of scare, but like seeing, you know, in their house when they see Georgie like sprint by in the background, you know what I mean? If not more, that's supposed to be like, oh, here's a little lead into this creepy scene that's coming up. The whole padlock was like a little bit of lead into this creepy scene that's coming up, and that, you know, that revelation had so much more implication for me.
Yeah.
You know, and that was just a douchebag dad. That was, you know, and it's probably part of it that it's real too. You know what I mean? Part of it's probably that it actually had some real.
Yeah, and I think that scares me a lot more. Like, I don't watch CSI because I have a real fear of getting murdered. Because it's like a real people thing. And I think that's the part of my life that I'm in. I'm or maybe that's just the type of person I am. I'm much more scared of if something goes bump in the night, I think it's a person, not a ghost, you know?
Yeah, and definitely if I'm actually ever scared, like being out back at night or something like that, it's because of people. Obviously, I'm not expecting something to climb over the wall at me.
But I know people who would, their first thought would be, oh, this is a ghost, or like, this is a vampire or something.
I think that says a little bit about your worldview and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And I think they would be a lot more scared, not by, like, the Bev scenes, but more by the Pennywise scenes.
Which, again, very scary.
Yeah, right? But I love that it combined all those things to make it a good horror movie for multiple audiences.
Yeah, and I also, I don't know how, I mean, I'm sure you could take a lot of time analyzing this, but I like the fact that they didn't detract from each other.
Yeah.
It didn't feel out of place, nor did it feel like, you know.
And this isn't stuff that's even specific to this new movie. This was stuff, like, all of them had douchebag parents, all of them had something going on where it was fearful, you know. Bev still had a terrible dad in the first one. I don't really remember a lot about the other people's parents, but yeah, I'm sure that holds true for the books too.
Yeah, it just felt well packaged. This whole movie felt well packaged. Like I was talking about, 2 hours 15 minutes, huge cast, pacing felt great, and you know, no scenes in there felt unnecessary. You know,
and I loved that it was just them as kids the entire time.
Yeah. No, and I
because
kept expecting an adult
in my memory, in my memory, it is jumping back and forth between adults and kids in the first part of the first original movie, and I love that it was just chronological.
Well, so you said in the original movie, as far as you remember, in the beginning scene that Billy or whoever it was gets a call and it's like, oh shit, something happened.
Yeah. That
scene leads to set up, like, you know, something happened. We're again in this movie, we went in knowing it's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We know something's happening, so we don't need that lead in. So I'm not even sure if you really need it in the first movie anyway.
Yeah. But again, like, there are so many people who have no idea what this movie is.
Well, probably these days?
Yes.
Probably very few people. I mean, comparatively.
The original movie came out when?
Yeah, but it's like one of the most iconic horror movies ever.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people who aren't into iconic horror movies.
No, but you know of it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, it felt complete. It felt the pacing was great. It felt that, you know, the interaction with the characters was realistic. You know, their motivations were all believable. Like, there was one scene where you look at me, and I remember you were giving me like the what the fuck. You just walked somewhere alone horror movie, or maybe that happened a couple times.
Oh yeah, this is another one of my notes. Yeah. Several times throughout the movie, they would be in a group.
Yeah.
One person would split off for whatever reason, and they would have to track them down, and they'd be like, oh shit, what the fuck, that was terrible, why would we ever split up?
Yeah.
Immediately another one would do it again. And it was I'm not exaggerating, it was immediate.
Yeah.
They would just decide, okay, we're going off by ourselves. And this happened for at least the 4th time, when I gave you a look like, what the fuck, what is he doing, why hasn't he learned by now? You know,
in my mind, I think I was able to attribute that to the fact that, you know, it has some sort of psychological ability. Not only can it show your greatest fear, but it can also show you, you know, desires. Like when he's chasing Georgie around.
Yeah, I mean, that was that was the main reason why all of them were splitting off.
Yeah.
Was they were seeing the thing that they wanted, and then they were running away.
Did it take you out of it?
Like a dog with a bird.
Because they were doing that?
The last time, yes.
Okay.
It was the very last one where I was like, this again? Because it happened a couple times when they were in the house, and I understood it. It was one of the first times that had happened.
Yeah.
They all had finally shared their experiences. They were all in this together, and now they were in new territory, right? But at the very end, when they already knew all of this, when they literally just saved a kid, and he's complaining about, I'm never going to be your friend again, and they're all in a group hug, and all of a sudden one of them breaks off from a group hug and goes to chase something? Definitely. No.
Yeah.
Unless it's like literally you're in a trance. No, that doesn't make sense.
Kind of off subject, but, you know, with the internet and with the fact that there's so many movies being remade, and so many tropes and cliches. Do you think that the ability to lose tropes or to reuse tropes is like diminishing greatly? You know what I mean? Because like, look at, you know, things like Scream and stuff like that, right? You know, oh no, don't go in there alone and stuff like that. The movie like lives on that. It's not like, oh, that's annoying as a viewer. I mean, sure, there's some stress associated with watching a character walk off by themselves when you're screaming at the screen saying, no, don't go, there's somebody in there. But like, it's part of the movie experience. Whereas in here, you know, they didn't present it, in my mind. There wasn't any time for you to say, why are you going alone and stuff like that. It was just like annoying, and I kind of got that too. I had to sit there and force myself to think, oh well, it's maybe controlling them in some way. Do you think that because these tropes have been used so often and, you know, so for so many years, do you think that there's like audiences in general are less accepting of those sorts of things, like tired of them?
Yes, okay. I would say that if they aren't necessarily like presenting that they're tired of that, I think there at least is a bigger pressure on creators to create something new. And whether it's from audiences or self-pressure among creators.
Yeah, maybe just trying to make a better product and stuff like that.
Because I do notice more unique things coming out. You know, people trying to put their own spin on it.
Yeah, but not just in concept, but like in execution. Like in this way. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
I had one more thing to talk about. Let me look at my notes.
Yeah, I mostly just want to talk about a couple scenes I really enjoyed.
Go for it.
I loved Billy shooting Georgie in the head. I thought that was cool. I thought that was like that, and then the scene where he finally mourns him after they kill it.
Oh, this is okay. Yeah, this is I think the last thing I wanted to talk about. Billy shooting Georgie in the head.
Sure.
During this scene, and the scene with Bev being entranced and whatever, you see this mound of kids' toys and clothes and whatever else, and all of these kids are floating around it up toward whatever you don't see. There's light and whatever.
Heaven.
Maybe
maybe it was
heaven.
Like purgatory.
Wow.
Maybe the fact they're floating is like sort of a
let's milk all of the religion out of this that we can. Eventually, when they beat the crap out of it, or as Kenya would say, kind of fight it.
Yeah, they stab him and they chain beat him and stuff. Jesus.
They mention and we see all of the kids floating down. And then we get nothing else from that. We got Bev down. She's still alive.
Sure.
I assume...
But she wasn't really fully floating yet. She was sitting there. They were spiraling. Wasn't.
But I just assumed that in having them float down and having had someone else float down, seeing this new side of things that I don't remember from the original movies. I'm not sure if it was there. I assumed that they would be alive, and I don't think were. They didn't touch on it, you know.
Yeah. They
could have been, but what are they doing? So they're all just down there in the well surrounded by dead kids, and they just leave and they're fine with that? They didn't wrap that up enough for me.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I mean, for me, I think the kids couldn't be saved. They were too far gone. And I also think that, I mean, they probably were just representations. You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying. Like, if Bev's floating and they're, like, spirits or whatever, where's the line? Where's the distinction? You know, does he have to eat you? Or are you down there for a certain amount of time? Whatever. I don't know. Didn't bother me so much, but I get what you're saying.
That scene with Bev and it is what makes me think that he does feed just on fear, not on kids. And, I mean, maybe he's eating them, too. But I think it is more of an emotional thing.
Yeah. So something else I like, too, is that, you know, Bev, you know, she, like, 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 she, when he goes from Georgie to Ed after he gets shot in the head, he like reworks his body, whatever.
Yeah.
When he gets pulled up, does
that count as body horror? Because he is very like crazy shaped.
Yeah, I mean, I think to a certain degree, the fact that his
bringing it back home.
Yeah, it's all cracking and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole thing about body horror is that it's the human representation, and in that scene, it to me, by the time the movie was over, was so inhuman. Like, sure, he had 4 limbs, but I didn't see that as like, oh my god, a human body's getting broken. It was just like, oh, whoa, this creepy creature or whatever. But he looks like he's being puppeted. He comes up and he's like, you know, and there's a scene where he's trying to get Billy in the basement when he sees Georgie down there, and it's all full of water and stuff like that. And
very
he lunges at him, and then he sits there and lays, and it looks like he's dragged back. You know, so I love.
There are several scenes where
and I love that because it very much shows you that, you know, it is not the clown is not it. The clown is its manifestation, its representation, and I think that was cool.
And I also think it's a lot creepier too. That he's not moving the way you would expect someone of that size who appears humanoid, you know, to move.
So, something I have a question about. When he finally floats Bev, right? He opens his mouth way wide, and you see 3 lights down there. Yeah. In his mouth. I remember that imagery in the original movie.
Oh,
I don't remember the context. I feel like
I kind of remember. Maybe I'm just making this up. The spider being lit, like having lights and stuff.
Yeah, in that scene and that whole time, I remember that too. And so I don't remember the context of that.
I don't really remember though.
But I like that
I've seen the first part much more recently than I have the last part because it was on 2 separate DVDs and we didn't realize, and then we never went back and rented the second half again.
Yeah, but I like that they gave that nod. As far as other scenes,
I mean, if it was a nod.
Yeah, as far as other scenes, I really enjoyed.
They gave several nods.
Oh yeah, they did. But I thought, you know, well, I mean, again,
I wouldn't even really call it a nod because I'm sure it's in the book.
Sure, but there was some corniness to the original movie that I think they could have reproduced scene for scene. I think they didn't take those. They didn't take the route. I think that was good. You know, they respected it, but they also didn't do it again. You know, a couple scenes I really liked. I love the scene where they're having the rock fight at the lake. Yeah, it was so great. You know, it's all you know. The bandit comes up and just screams, and then the kid goes rock fight, and then it's slow motion. You know, it was.
That was one of the scenes where I stopped and I was like, "This is a good movie. This really makes me feel like these are real kids. This is like their real lives. This is what they're doing. This makes me feel like it's not just a crazy horror movie. Yeah, and you know, whatever. It felt much more real." That they were making all these jokes and they were having all of these interactions that were real life things.
Yeah, and something about the way that scene was framed.
I mean, I've never had a rock fight.
Sure, yeah. But, like, that was one of the weirder shots in the movie. Like, there's an above camera and stuff like that. It's in slow motion and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But it felt it felt real, like you said. Yeah. It felt like... Which is weird. Something that's interesting that the scene felt one of the more manufactured scenes, aside from a lot of the CG that they used with it and stuff like that. But, like, it felt very manufactured, yet it also felt like one of the most genuine, believable scenes. You know what I mean? So I thought that was cool. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else I really enjoyed. I'm trying to avoid talking about the final scene because I thought that'd be kind of okay place to stop. But
didn't we already talk about the final scene several times?
No, the final scene where they're doing the blood pact.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get there. All right. I love that scene with the blood pact. I like the fact that they all hold hands. I thought it was super cool. You've never done blood pact, right, in real life?
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, Elliot.
Not like that. I didn't slice my hand open. Like, I think I pulled a scab off.
If it wasn't clear, I have not done a blood pact.
Yeah, I think Rebecca and I did it, and I think Trevor and I did it once, too.
I feel like Rebecca and you would.
Yeah, I was like 9 at summer camp with my sister, my non-blood sister. And, you know, we...
The entire time it was going through my head, how is this disease kid, this kid that is so afraid of diseases...
He's not. He grew out of it at that point.
Did he?
Yeah, totally.
I feel like that's ingrained. He tossed his pills, Kenya. Yeah, he tossed his pills, whatever.
It was so funny when they were...
The whole time I was thinking, like, oh my god, like, good thing you're young. Hopefully none of you have anything.
whatever. Let's stop. Yeah, I guess so. But like, I love that scene where he's talking about the AIDS crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Dates the movie also, not in a bad way, but you know.
I mean,
and then it also
tells you what the date is.
Yeah, but like when people say, "Oh, you know, it's dated," I didn't want it to be like, "Oh, this shows that the movie was made in like this year." I mean, it's a nice piece of dialogue that really sets the era and stuff like that. And also, I love the fact that, you know, it talks about how there was so much misinformation about the AIDS crisis because the kid's like, oh, you know, my uncle cousin in New York got it from touching a dirty, you know, pole, and it's funny. It shows the kids' neuroses, and it also shows, you know, the crazy AIDS epidemic and stuff like that. But yeah, I love that scene in the end. It felt, you know, it felt cheesy in a little, not in a bad way, but it felt like, okay, we're all six gonna sit here, you know, cut our hands in a row and stand in a circle of hands. But it felt like the perfect counterweight to this crazy we're all gonna beat the shit out of it scene, and you know, it felt okay.
After you beat the shit out of who knows what, you know, you kind of have to.
You gotta hold hands in a circle. Yeah, definitely. And so
you gotta recognize what just happened.
So I thought that was done well, and I like the scene that everybody's leaving. I wonder if that's foreshadowing for like how they're all gonna come to terms with failing in the next movie, because there's got to be a scene in the next movie where they're all adults and each of them is not going to be like able to pull through, you know what I mean? Because the whole thing is about, oh, they're kids, they got heart and spirit, and they're all going to grow up and they're all going to be like, fuck this, I don't want to go
even then though, like most of them are like, fuck this, I don't want to be
exactly
here.
And so the first person leaves is Stan, right? And he was like one of the hardest to get involved.
Very much and didn't want to be there.
So
even in the end, right, when they the very last time they go into the house, he was standing outside. They had to force him in.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, not literally, but they had to really talk him into it.
Yeah, and so I think that, you know, there's a lot of that foreshadowing in that scene. You know, and I love the montage, and I also love that the last three people are Ben, Bill, and Bev. It's a lot of B names. Fuck. But you know, it almost he's walking away, but it basically looks like Ben is pacing right before he leaves, and it's very much like, are you guys gonna like, is Bill gonna leave, and am I gonna be able to stay with Bev? You know, it's like such wishful thinking.
It did make me think, like, I bet the last three people, as soon as I started having them leave, I bet the last three people are gonna be Bill, Ben, and Bev, and I wonder which of the boys is gonna leave first.
Yeah, and I think I knew it was gonna be Ben.
Yeah, you assume, but
I like that scene.
Again, I was still hopeful.
You know, and I thought it was a really good way to end it, you know, and I thought it was nice too that they didn't have that, you know, final scene 10 seconds after the credit. Maybe they'd have end credit scene, I don't know, where it like shows its hand coming back up, you know what I mean? Because that's unnecessary. It's implied. I don't need to know that the sinister crap's coming back. I know.
I mean, it's not even implied. They straight up tell you this is part 1 of 2.
Yes. But I like the way that they did that instead, as opposed to saying, you know, dun dun.
And there were several people in the theater that were like, "What? Part 1?"
Well, okay, so I knew the original movie was in 2 parts, stuff like that. But I thought, in the way that they described it, they let, like in the end where he says, if it comes back 27 years, we all have to agree to come back, blah blah blah. I thought that was open-ended enough where this could be a standalone movie and they can never do a sequel.
It is definitely open-ended enough. Like, if this had bombed, they could have gotten out of it. But they kind of said, hey, we're doing this.
Yeah, and so I think...
But also, like, once it got to that point, once they didn't resolve the kids who floated back down, once they made this blood pact and left it kind of open-ended, chose to not resolve those things, I immediately knew, okay, they have to be.
So I didn't make that conclusion. Not that it was, like, super surprising to me, but after they basically had the cut to black scene, right? I don't remember how long it was, but I had some time to think, man, I really enjoyed this movie. It left me wanting more. Not that the fact that it left me wanting more and that it didn't give me enough, but it let me, you know, I liked this cast, I liked the story, I liked this world enough that I wanted to go back and see more. And so when it said chapter 1, I was like, hell yeah, I wasn't sure if we were going to do this. And it, to me, my was not like, oh, what? It was like, oh, yeah, like, this is great. I can't wait to see this again in a couple years, you know?
Yeah. I'm happy with it.
Yeah. So anything you want to talk about?
Not really. Let's go over our final thoughts.
Yeah, so I thought it was great. Not as scary as I would have intended. I thought that the children, I mean, I'm not sure they were all really children. You know, some of them had to be, like, teenagers. They're all teenagers at some point. But
yeah, but I mean,
I thought they were all really good
not
acting.
non-adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone. There wasn't a single kid where I thought this could have been cast better. You know, all of them did a very good job. Even fucking Georgie, he was like
He was
5
so
or
cute
6,
so
and he
sad.
did so good. He was
Yeah.
such a normal
freaky,
kid, you know,
and
and he did
terrifying.
a very good job being freaky.
Yeah, yeah. I thought the bully was really well cast too. I thought even the bullies who barely had any lines were all really good. You know, they had that
yeah.
iconic '80s douchebag.
I really think they did a very good job casting for everyone.
Yeah, I thought, you know, I don't know if there were any like crazy, well-directed scenes that I can think about, except for, you know, like the river fight and stuff like that like jump out at me. Not saying that there wasn't, but there was no like cinematography that was.
But
like,
there's also not any that jump out at me for being bad.
No. Yeah. I'm not saying that there aren't any unique, really well done scenes either. I just don't think
again,
my first
we're coming off of
seeing it
having seen it half an hour ago. I mean, half an hour from when we started this.
Yeah, so 2 hours ago. But yes, I'm not saying that it was bad in cinematography. Just that there was nothing that I recall that was like crazy outstanding. But again, I don't remember.
No, it was definitely good cinematography.
I don't remember any crazy soundtracks. I know they had music during it, but I nothing that really, you know.
Yeah, I don't remember any.
Like, it
of
wasn't
that.
like Guardians of the Galaxy style, like, you know.
That movie's almost built around its soundtrack.
Definitely. Oh, and I like that, but I also thought this movie didn't need that.
Definitely not. I don't really remember any of the songs used. I remember there being several where it was like, okay, they're playing happy music, but I can't remember what that happy music was.
One more note about Bev and Ben and Bev and Bill. Bev and Bill felt very like heroine mentality. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I need a hug. We just had a moment, blah blah. Whereas everything.
Yeah, there were several times where she would be like, "Thanks, Ben," and then she would go and hug Bill.
But what I mean is, like, what I like the scenes with them almost more because it felt very like. There's a scene where they're in his bedroom for the first time, and she pulls the door back, and it's got the New Kids on the Block poster, and she like, kind of gives him a look like, I'm not telling anybody. And it has the music play for just a second, you know what I mean? And then he looks back, and he's like so relieved and so happy, but he's not embarrassed about it with her, and I love that. You know what I mean? There are a lot of like, and I think that's cool. I think that the movie was trying to tell us, like, listen, this is really what matters. She may be at this stage in her life, and he may be at this stage in life where Bill's a little hero, and she's, you know, fallen for him, but I didn't think it was.
But these other people, Ben and Bev, have a lot more in common and have a lot better personality agreement.
Yeah, definitely.
Chemistry.
Personality agreement, yeah.
I mean, personality agreement's good.
That's fine. Oh, whoa!
What?
Pennywise was great too.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Skarsgård. I think I pronounced his name
said all.
Why? I just want to take my.
I was blanketing it.
He was, you know, in just this because they had a lot of scenes where he was just talking.
Yeah, so that's
Terrifying.
Something I wanted to ask you that I didn't remember to ask you. Was he voicing not only Pennywise but all of the other freaky characters? Because there were several, like the painting lady.
Did she talk?
She makes noise at some point.
Oh.
She does like weird little laugh or something. And there are other times where it's like kids laughing. I know that's not him, but she made like a very him noise.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, maybe he's like voicing all of these different people.
But yeah, like something about the way he's talking to. Again, this is a whole.
He had a very weird accent. Like he was saying like a lot of things very weird.
I think he's.
It wasn't like
Scandinavian.
No, but it didn't make me think foreign.
No. Yeah, but
it was just like some of the words you're saying are like they have like a weird pace.
You're not comfortable saying them.
Yeah.
It was like
alien.
Again, yeah, it was like I'm a facsimile of a human. I'm not actually a real.
Don't know that word.
Like
facsimile.
Facsimile. It's like fax machine. That's what
facsimile.
Facsimile. Whatever. Basically, but I think it might be facsimile.
I
don't know the pronunciation. Either way, he was not a real human.
Facade.
Yeah, exactly. But and I just love that, you know, in the way he was acting in so many ways. Did he have ears?
Probably.
Do you remember seeing any ears?
I don't remember ears, but I'm pretty sure he probably had them.
Yeah, in the way he talks, it was very, you know, his pitch would change a lot. His voice was shaky and stuff like that. You know, it just felt like someone wearing...
And he would, like even in the very first scene with Georgie, he was very into it, and then all of a sudden he kind of, like...
Spaced out a little bit almost. Yeah, exactly. It felt very much like you're wearing a glove. It's not your real hand, you know what I mean? Like, it's...
Like Jamie Lannister.
Well, that's a little stiff, but like, you know, when you like Halloween, we wear big monster gloves and there's big dopey fingers, stuff like that.
Sure.
It felt very much like this isn't really me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that was great.
That's a pretty good metaphor.
Yeah.
Like, it's on you, you look like it, but you can't navigate like it would
do
navigate.
Yeah. I thought it was just really. He thought it was just great. I thought the movie was great.
It was really good. Well, okay, out of 10, what would you
10.
give it?
I thought it was 10.
10? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying 10 out of 10 on all movies I've ever seen, but I'm saying for horror movies, for I don't want to say for what it was, because that's a classic line. For what it was, you know, but like for a horror movie made in 2017, you know, it was
great reboot.
Yeah, definitely.
10 out of 10 of reboots.
Now, here's my question, right?
I'll give an updated score after the second one comes out, but as far as the first part goes, 10 out of 10 for a reboot.
Yeah, definitely. And I think reboots fail miserably these days so often. You know,
because they're so popular too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's redo this because it was good.
Exactly.
You know?
And I don't know if it's because the original It movie wasn't like amazing. Not that it was like bad. I haven't seen it.
But I don't know how it was received when it came out. Did people think it was amazing when it came out?
But I know a lot of movies from the era. But I don't see, you know, 100 best movies of all time, and people, or even 100 best horror movies of all time. People say It. You know what I mean? It's not always like it's not classically on that list. So I think that this definitely did a better job of being It than the original It, which maybe some people are gonna fucking hate us for saying that, you know. And I've never read the book either, so compared to that sort of adaptation, you know,
for me, it was definitely better so far. But again, oh, sorry guys. Part of what I don't like about the original is the ending, and I don't have that full picture yet. It could be just as cheesy. It could be the exact same story, and I could hate it exactly as much as I did this one. Well,
so in the what I recall from the ending of the original It was that it was so.
I guess I don't know if that's the ending, but the reveal.
Yeah, but the whole alien and whatever, that whole thing. It seems so unexplained, so out of left field, and so like, what? You know, and not in like a, oh my god, I'm so horrified because I don't know what I'm seeing right now. Like, oh my god, I'm so confused. What the fuck? Where did this go? What? You know what I mean? And I think they'll be able to present that in a better way. And if they do end up showing us some giant crazy bug monster and stuff like that, I think it'll be properly contextualized, so it's more acceptable in this next movie. I'm hoping. I don't know who the director was, but it was really good. You know.
I almost said Stephen King.
Not interesting. There's 2 Stephen King movies or 2 Stephen King properties in theaters.
I meant Steven Spielberg.
Oh no, but it kind of had that feel with the whole '80s vibe and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I thought of that because of the Ready Player One trailer, though. Because I remember seeing his name.
Keep an eye out for a fling on
Let's
Ready Player
plug
One.
that. Not a fling though, because we've both seen it. Keep an eye out for another podcast.
Yeah.
We both read the book. We're both gonna go see it. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Audible, not a sponsor, but
unless you want to be Audible,
go listen to that on Audible. It's narrated by Will Wheaton. It's a great book,
and he's a really good fit for this too.
Yeah.
Will Wheaton is.
It is a little bit teeny. Like
sure.
a kind of
teen. Don't go in there
teen
expecting
book. It's not very deep, but it's really good.
Yeah, if
you like gaming, if you like media,
cool concept sci-fi, not necessarily high concept sci-fi, but cool.
All right, let's
sorry, getting out of it. So anyway, 10 out of 10. That was great.
All right, I'll give it like I want to say 10 out of 10, right? Well, no, okay. I want to say 9 out of 10 because I just feel like 10 out of 10 is a lot. But I think I will say 10 out of 10 because I even now, after you said that, I was very surprised by it. But even now, I can't think of any good reason why I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, there's no glaring.
But I will come back to my thoughts on this once the second part has come out.
I don't think
I plan on seeing it. I liked it. I liked the first one. I mean, I saw it for the first time when I was like 7, and then I was terrified of it because I was a child and I was terrified of everything. Probably why Pennywise feeds on children. And then I saw the full thing all together in 7th grade, so I was like, what, 12 or 13? Maybe 14.
And then you saw the first
13
one again.
probably. And then I saw the first part again maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember loving the first movie. Which is why I think that I went into this with the expectation that it was going to be good because I'd heard, certified fresh, Rotten Tomatoes.
And all the trailers looked really good.
The trailers looked okay to me.
I thought they looked really good.
All the horror scenes in the trailer looked okay to me. Because something I hate too is that there were scenes when he was running at the camera and they did the classic flashy, almost like you're watching it in a strobe light mentality, and I hate that when they do that in movies.
But it wasn't like a strobe light. It was like they sped up his body.
Yeah, like he was moving unnaturally quick.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of ragdolling him around, and I like that. But I think in the trailers sometimes some of them were strobe lighted almost. They had flashback, and I hate that.
Okay. Well, so I really liked it just because I got to see more of him, and I knew that stuff did not happen in the original movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so we're both giving it a 10 out of 10.
That was great. Go see it.
We'd
awesome.
recommend it. I hope you would have seen it before listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
But
if you're at this point and you haven't seen it yet, that sucks.
If you want to sound cool to a friend and you didn't see it, just use our thoughts. No big deal.
Yeah, just repackage us. Yeah, check it out. It was great. See it in theaters. It's one of those movies. It's.
So you're much bigger on see it in theaters.
Well, there's I
wouldn't say that you need to see it in theaters, but I do think that it was a very good theater experience.
I'm saying see it in theaters not because it was visually compelling, not because there was so much audio, because you're in a large group of people. And I think
but you're not always going to be. So see it in theaters as soon as possible.
Sure, or watch it with watch it with people who are going to have
watch
reactions.
it. Yeah.
Or watch it by yourself. Whatever for you personally, whatever scenario makes you most scared to consume media, go check it out. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And it's not scary the whole time, for real. So if you're the type of person that can't sit alone and watch something like this, it'll help you through it. It'll be your friend.
Yeah, but don't go in expecting it to be like and it'll help you through it. Don't go in expecting it to be like this, light horror movie or anything like that.
No.
It's still
very good mix.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, this was our first podcast of DorkDate podcast, It Edition.
Yeah.
Ran pretty long, but most podcasts do.
Yeah, and, we talked about...
If in the future you'd like us to cut it up into smaller segments...
Let us know. We're going to put this on YouTube. Subscribe
I'll probably try and upload it to different, podcast apps later.
Keep an eye out for it.
But we'll see for now. I don't really know what I'm doing with that yet, so...
Yeah. But either way,
I'll
let us
look
know
into it.
If you didn't like the formatting, that, we made some good points. Let us know your thoughts. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. Keep an eye out for new podcasts. We consume media at a crazy rate, so I think we'll do...
It's not going to be necessarily a fully regular thing yet, because we're just starting out on it, but I mean fairly regular, because there are several things that I do want to talk about that we can't do in our other podcast setting with Fling.
But yeah, if there's anything modern, recent, upcoming, new movies, stuff like that's out,
we've probably seen it, and we can talk to you about it.
Yeah, and if you want to hear about it, let us know. I would not be opposed to going and buying some movie tickets and checking it out, giving your opinions of it. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to say.
No,
hope you guys enjoy this.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell your buddies about it,
We love you.
And, peace.